Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How's everybody doing tonight?
We're good.
I'd like to call the Audit and Finance Committee meeting for October 27th, 2022 to order right now. And I shall begin by having the majority council call the roll.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Willingham?
Present.
Peter?
Present.
Bergdorf?
Present.
Clay?
Present.
Grimm?
Present.
Ray Joyce?
Here.
Lukakis?
Here.
Mayo?
Here.
And Brewski is excused. 8 present, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. So we do have a quorum.
We do.
Thank you very much. Can you proceed, please?
Sure. The first item is approving the previous minutes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve those minutes.
I got a motion from
I'll second.
Matt Peter. I have the second from, was that to Ms. Lukakis?
It was.
Okay, from Ms. Lukakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
Item 2 is local law number L for 2021, which is deemed tabled at the request of sponsor. Item 3 is amending resolution number 262 for 2022, directing the Board of Elections to certify its expenses regarding the 2021 election cycle. And I believe the BOE commissioners are here this evening?
Who's presenting?
we are.
We have both of our commissioners here?
Yes.
You can straight down at the end.
Good to be here.
You got something you want to give us?
You can sit here, sit here.
Would you like some parsley?
Not supposed to give out.
So I passed out, there were some questions about the enrollment of the voters in the municipalities within the county and the cost breakdown. So I ran an enrollment report and passed it out to all of you showing the increase in enrollment in Colony over Albany. And that's how we calculated the amounts for the chargebacks.
Okay, so in the back up here, I'm trying to see, is this the right one? Where's the back? Come on, anything.
Can you pass me a stinking paper copy, please?
Do you need the chargeback?
Maybe the enrollment.
Having a number of issues this month. Thank you.
For whatever reason, it is not in there.
Stinking, does it stink?
We're having a bunch of issues with it, but we'll compare it.
Okay, do I have, okay, so can you go ahead with your presentation too on what we're doing here with this, the expenses?
Just to,
See, I don't have any.
I believe as submitted last time, it was a breakdown where it moved from voting age population to
Yes.
and the amount of the eligible voters in each municipality for the cost of early voting, instead of it being broken down by actual, like, basically division, straight division.
Correct. So just to reiterate what he said, the enrollment the calculation for division of costs throughout the county towards each municipality is based on the division of actual enrollment per municipality. There was some question as to the actual figures regarding to Colony surpassing Albany's enrollment. So this time we just simply provided the backup, and as you can see, the figures reflect enrollment.
Yep, and just based on this, Albany's number 2 has the second most enrollment at 57,607, Colony at 63,379. Therefore, that's why they had the increase.
right.
Correct.
Well, some municipalities increased their chargeback, some went lower because of the amount of enrolled voters.
And this was for, okay, the 2021, so we only had 2 elections last year?
Yes,
So that was just the primary and the general?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so now, just for, to keep everything clear, so we do this every year, is that correct?
Yes.
So for 2022, how many elections have we had so far?
Had 2 and
Can have a
we'll have
third.
another one 2 weeks.
We had the special,
June, August, and November.
and so we'll have 3.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so we should expect a higher cost next year charge, as far as chargebacks are
Yes.
concerned?
Which they did see in yes, that's correct, and they did see that similarly in 2020, when elections were delayed and changed due to COVID. So you'll probably see figures similar to that year.
Okay. Do I have any questions from the members?
Nope, absolutely.
Oh, Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm looking at, I think we first saw these numbers, it was just before the ledge meeting. And I'm looking at the actual chargebacks. And then we have the list today, which has the enrollment. So my question is, for example, Bethlehem has 29,000, Goodland has 27,000, this is enrollment. But the chargeback for Bethlehem is much less, it's 48K to 75K for Goodland. So if the chargebacks are based on enrollment, why is the disparity that way?
And
Okay, wait, sorry, so just repeat that, Bethlehem?
Yeah, I'm referring to, I think we had an audit and finance meeting off before, and that's when we got the chargeback numbers. And today we were handed the enrollment list. But if I look at, if I compare them,
Right, okay, right. So I see, yeah, thank you. So it's hard, these figures are a little bit small, I'm getting older. So, the total figure that you see for 2021 is not just contingent upon an equal division of early voting costs, okay? There's this whole other segment that you have to calculate, which is actually not based on equal division. It's based on number of poll sites and number of inspectors used per municipality. So that relates to election day costs solely. So that's where you see a significant increase because of the dramatic difference in the number of poll sites per town.
so Mark, for example.
And number and inspectors.
So Mark, for example, like Albany's gonna cost more because we have more poll sites, even though we technically have less enrollment than Colony, because we have more poll sites and therefore inspectors, mostly because we needed more accessible sites and things like that. So therefore, we're more expensive. The enrollment stuff is only based, I believe, on the early voting sites and things like that, divided
Correct.
on that. So it's only a small fraction, which is why, like, I think Albany went up like $12,000. It didn't actually explain the complete difference in cost.
so are the two charges then enrollment in certain area, in certain piece, and then poll sites? Those are the two factors?
So sorry, just to clarify, enrollment is only when it's based on early voting, because it's based on sort of a use thing. Everything else is also use, but based on actual use, not population. So the number of sites, the number of inspectors, things like that is based on what the individual municipality uses.
And
Correct.
if anyone's looking for the chart that was given in coordination with the Rule 11 motion last month, it's in the 10-11 Audit and Finance meeting. For whatever reason, it's not loading in tonight's meeting.
That explains why I can't find it.
That's all I thought. Yeah.
And so that's why we're at 249,000? I'm sorry, City of Albany.
232.
230.
So the election day costs are based on inspectors, polling sites, those are by municipality, what that municipality spends for their poll sites, their inspectors, those are their costs. What is split up here is the early voting costs. That's what's based on enrollment.
And the reason we came to that conclusion is simply because, as you're well aware, during early voting, voters anywhere in the county can vote at any of those sites.
So if I'm in Albany, do I have to vote in Albany or can I go to Colony?
You can go to Bern if you want.
Oh.
During early voting, you can go
Yeah.
to any one of our 7 sites.
Right. Because it's established site countywide.
So did early voting start yet?
Saturday.
This Saturday. And so it's gonna be every day all the way up until election?
No,
That's
Till the
okay,
Sunday before election.
up until Sunday before.
November 6th.
Okay, speak loud.
It goes from October 29th to November 6th.
The November 6th, and election day is the 8th, is that right?
Yes. So there's 9 days total of early voting.
And it's all 9 to 5 except for Monday and Wednesday, which is 12 to 8.
So in Albany, we have 2?
Early voting sites, We have one right on the outskirts on Russell Road, and then one in the south end of Albany, which is our office.
Yeah, the main office.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so, very interesting. Any other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just to follow up, is this something the state dictates, or is this formula
No.
something that you guys create?
Well, all the election law says to us is simple. It says you get to charge back to municipalities costs that you have always charged back to them, okay? So, but they don't tell you specifically when it comes to early voting how to divvy up those costs. So for me, logic dictates that if voters can vote at any location, you have to apply an equal division rule when it comes to dividing costs. However, for election day, that's simply not the case. A voter can only vote at their designated polling place, which is within, however many miles radius of their home.
Well, why, you should be, if you're in Albany, you should vote in the Albany sites, if you're in Gillen, the Gillen sites. I can't imagine there's people that go.
For early voting or for election day?
For early voting, why would someone go to another
They
town
actually,
to vote?
we actually changed that because the state compelled us to change it. They did not want us to have people solely designated for early voting to one specific location. They wanted people to have the luxury of being able to vote at any site in the county during the 9 days.
We get, actually in our offices, we get a lot of people that work downtown here. They come over to our office, they live in Colony or they live in
Oh, it's handy
Guilderland,
for 'em.
in the hill towns, and they,
I know, Madam Chair.
It's a
convenience
And also, I
factor.
believe,
Thanks.
just on that note with the early voting, by having it able to do multiple municipalities in one area, you can have condensed sites at key population centers rather than having to be in the specific area they are.
Correct. So, the introduction of ballot on demand system has enabled this sort of configuration, whereas we weren't able to do that prior to ballot on demand systems. Because you would have to then essentially send, 30 to 40 ballot styles to one polling place in order to achieve that, and that just was not practical. Because, you sign in, you can't have a poll inspector rifle through 30 to 40 ballot styles to ultimately issue the correct one. Plus, it presents a challenge during primaries when some voters are members of the Democratic Party, some are Republican. So, the ballot on demand system has actually eliminated a lot of human error and has enabled us to create what's called voting centers, which we think is the direction and future of voting in New York State. And slowly, if you review legislation related to this issue in the state legislature, you'll see that they're kind of sort of moving towards that direction. So there may be during a time in the future I can foresee where people maybe have their designated poll sites plus voting centers that they can essentially vote at.
So we know that when we go vote, that the iPads are there and they're all set up. But during the early voting cycle, those iPads are set up so that people have it's fully loaded for everywhere in the county?
Yes.
The entire county is on the
Oh.
iPads.
Okay, so answer me this then. Why isn't it like that on election day?
We're not allowed to do it by law.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So they're currently introducing legislation on the state level that would move from that sort of configuration to this new system where on election day itself, perhaps in the future, it would allow us to create voting centers where you can load multiple election districts onto one pad rather than one pad, one table, one district, that sort of configuration.
So, so on election day, if someone shows up at the polling site and their name is not in that election district or in the 3 or 4, depending upon how many election districts are in an actual polling, site, they still have to call in to find out where that individual is registered to vote.
Well, actually, on the
Tell
iPads
them
now.
on the iPad.
Right. The iPads now enable an inspector to search a voter's correct voting location. And so what the iPad does now too is, assuming, let's say, I go to Salvation Army, and I don't vote at Salvation Army, I vote at St. Sophia on election day. So if I walked into Salvation Army, it would immediately say on the voter's record, wrong location, would not allow me to proceed to process the voter and then it spits out a map, a Google map of the correct location, which the inspector can actually text or email to the voter with precise location of how, and directions how to get to their correct location.
Wow. Okay, so now this will be my final question, because, you know, everything gets dicey on election day. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. So there's 3 EDs in one place. And, what's that affidavit?
So an affidavit ballot,
What's the number?
603.
Okay.
oh,
All right,
Okay.
so on election day, there's 3 polling sites, there are 3 EDs, election districts, and 1 polling site. It used to be if you went to the wrong one, even though you were in the same building, that, and somebody filled it out, that there's a table over there, and a table over there.
right church, wrong pew.
Right, so that
Yeah.
isn't
So-
anymore, right?
Right, they're trying to address that on the state level, but if you're at the correct polling place, but at the wrong table, if it's the correct ballot style, you're allowed to count it.
Okay, yes. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, if there's no further questions, I'd make a motion to move this.
Second.
Oh, I got a motion, I got a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Unanimous.
Next
All right.
Item 4 is authorizing an agreement with the New York State Board of Elections regarding the absentee ballot prepaid postage grant.
We are here to request approval for a grant for postage in the amount of $65,299.42, which we will use for reimbursement of monies that you had approved in September. Because of this third election, we asked for extra money, and this money will refund that money, and then we'll be taking that money and applying it towards our overtime budget, which we hadn't expected to go over, and we're gonna use it for that.
All right, so this is 100% state funding and so.
Yes.
Okay. All right, any questions from any members?
Motion. Second.
Okay, so I got a motion from Mr. Clay, I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your presentation, too.
We'd love to give you a presentation anytime you'd like.
We're here to serve.
Yeah.
All right, we're ready to move on.
Item 5 is authorizing a payment in lieu of taxes agreement with Knox 2 PV LLC regarding real property located at 1953 Thompson's Lake Road in the town of Knox. Mr. McGuire is here this evening.
Hello, Mr. McGuire, how are you this
Doing
evening?
well, Madam Speaker. How are you all doing this evening?
All right, thank you.
Thank you for having me. The Real Property Tax Service Agency respectfully requests authorization to enter into a 15-year pilot agreement with Knox 2 PV LLC. Knox 2 PV LLC is developing a 5-megawatt AC solar array in the town of Knox. Real property tax law, section 487, exempts the value of solar arrays from local property taxes. 487 also permits a taxing jurisdiction such as Albany County to enter into a pilot agreement with the developer as a replacement for some of the taxes that the taxing jurisdiction would have otherwise collected if the property were not exempt. The developer, in this case, has proposed an annual county pilot payment of $859.01 per megawatt per year, with an annual 2% escalation. Year 1, our tentative pilot payment would be $4,295.06. Developer has already executed agreements with the town of Knox and the Burn-Knox-Westerville Central School District. The sum that was agreed upon for those pilots and our pilot is within the NYSERDA pilot rate guidance for National Grid territory.
All right. Any questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Graham.
The state law exempts them from property tax,
Yes, sir.
but the local jurisdictions could get a pilot instead.
Correct.
What is the value of an exemption if they have to pay anyway?
They're paying less than what they would be paying if there were no exemption.
So there's an agreement, I mean, some jurisdictions say we weren't going to charge you anything. Is it up to the jurisdictions completely?
Yes, so
Although I don't know why they would do that.
some taxing jurisdictions decide not to enter into a pilot, and they will just exempt the value of the improvement completely for their tax purposes. So in that case, for example, the town of Bethlehem has not really entered into pilot agreements with these developers in their case. So it's exempt from town taxes if it were built in the town of Bethlehem.
And this is just for county taxes?
Correct.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So-
so how much can we charge them? You say you negotiated.
So
Can we charge them up to the limit?
The full amount cannot exceed what they would be paying for taxes if there were no pilot. NYSERDA has issued guidance as far as payment range for different areas. So they have different geographic areas within the state for their electricity rates and also depending on the electric provider. So with that NYSERDA guidance, the sum total that actually the developer is paying is $5,000 per megawatt. And what we do is we get a proportionate share of that $5,000 based upon what their typical tax burden is for county purposes of that property. So, and actually, we're getting more than that. So we are about 13% of the tax dollar that's paid on this property, right? The county share is about 13%. With this agreement, we're actually getting 17% of that $5,000 per.
So the county's getting more than they would have. I thought that was against the rules.
Well, no, so that's,
Sorry.
so we're getting 17% of that $5,000 per megawatt. That's
Oh.
actually, so that total per megawatt, so the $25,000 pilot payment for the 5,000, or for the 5 megawatts, we're getting 17% of that annually. That is still less than what they would be paying otherwise if there were no exemption on the property and they were paying taxes at a value based upon the assessed value of the solar array.
Madam Chair?
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Peter?
Mr. McGuire, that, just to, I think we did this last time, but it's only on the improvement, right?
Correct.
It's so it's sort of a net, right?
Yes.
Like in that sense for us.
Yes, so the exemption only applies to the increase in value that's attributed to the solar array that's
Right.
erected. Generally, the property owner is still gonna pay, or the developer will be paying taxes on the base value of the land that was pre-existing. One other note that none of you asked about, but that's okay. The 487 does not exempt special districts, so in all of these cases, they are paying full fire district, right? And then if they are in any other special district, they would be paying the full amount of that. Most of the ones that we've looked at are generally just paying fire, there aren't that many. You might have a light district, right, a lighting district or something else, but they do pay full fire district and ambulance if they are subject to an ambulance district tax as well.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If there are no further questions, I'd make a motion to move this.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter, I got a second, I believe, from Mr. Krim down there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Still my abstention.
What did you say? Oh, yes. And I know Mr. Joyce's exemption on this. Abstention on this. Sorry. All right, very good, unanimous, except for the abstention.
Item 6 is authorizing the acceptance of a donation of kayaks and related equipment for the Albany County Veterans Peer Support Program, and I believe Mr. Secor is here this evening.
Hello there, Mr. Secor, how are you this evening?
Good, how you doing, ma'am?
Very good, very good.
So the Veteran Service Bureau has stood up a veteran peer support program through a grant by New York State. And one of the programs that we're going to be starting is a kayaking program. Mr. Loya, formerly of the Sergeant Fisher Upper Hudson Heroes, which is a nonprofit, their organization has folded. They've turned in their charter and everything, but they have all the equipment left, and they want it to go for the same purposes that they were using it for, which is for veterans, in order to help with their PTSD, mental and physical well-being. So he has offered to donate these 8 kayaks, the trailer, and the equipment that goes with it.
Okay, I just see here that you said Albany County Veterans Peer Support Program. Could you just give me a brief overview of what that is and where, you know, how you provide services through that?
Sure, so
And where are you gonna house all of these kayaks and everything?
in the early stages of the Iraq War in 2003, a Marine unit was pushing up the Euphrates, and in the news there was this picture that went viral of a Marine carrying a baby through a hail of gunfire and everything. That was PFC Dwyer. When PFC Dwyer finished his tour of duty, he went back to civilian life. He had PTSD and had trouble adjusting to civilian life, and he wound up taking his own life. So he was from New York, so New York has a grant program now named after him. And what the program is to provide, it started off with just a few counties and it started expanding. And just this last year, they said any county that wants it can have it. We've been trying for 5 years to get the funding, and we have finally got it. So what this funding is for is to help veterans transition from the military into civilian life, and also help with their PTSD and their mental and physical well-being, as well as their support system, their family, spouse, loved ones. So that's what the program is about. We've got it this year, we've got it up and running, and like I said, this is going to be part of one of the programs that we have associated with our peer support program. Getting it so late, this equipment so late in the year, we're not going to be doing any kayaking anytime soon, but hopefully in the spring we'll start up. As far as storage, we have talked with Parks and Recreation about storing this at Lawson Lake and having an agreement with them that, being that they're stored there, that they would be used by people using Lawson Lake, of course, because it was donated for veteran purposes. Veterans would get first right to use it. So it would be open to all Albany County residents that are actually using Lawson Lake.
Sounds like a
All right,
win-win.
any other questions for anybody?
Great program, I'd love to make a motion.
I'll second.
I got a motion, I got a second from Mr. Bergdorf, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Cactus.
Unanimous, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Item 7 is a resolution of the County of Albany, New York, authorizing the execution of a financing agreement by and between Albany and the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, and the execution of a municipal corporation agreement and related agreements in connection with all of the foregoing. I believe Mr. Riley or Commissioner Riley and Mr. McLaughlin are
That
here.
looks like Mr. McLaughlin.
I'm just a lowly Mr. Ethan.
I apologize.
No,
How it
no,
goes, you know, you can't all have it.
let's be truthful here. Madam Chair, thanks so much. The simplest way of explaining this is typically when involved in a bonding situation, we have bond authorization. We come to you folks provide bond authorizations on a regular basis. Because we're going through DASNY, we need a similar sort of action that is accomplished by this resolution, as is a few other actions related to how CDYCI, the Juvenile Detention Facility, operates as a consortium facility with our 3 other partner counties. So the resolution achieves that. It's the final, it's what we hope to be the final step for DASNY to finalize the bonding, and that will allow the project to move forward, which is rapidly gaining steam.
Do I have any questions from you?
Quick
Yes,
question.
Mr.
I
Bergdorf.
had called Mr. McLaughlin today, just to told him I was going to ask this question. You know, given the political climate with change the age and bail reform and stuff, this is probably going to be a 20 or 25-year financing.
Correct.
I just wondered if there were safeguards built into this, if anything changed dramatically in terms of the fiscal operations of the youth detention facility.
Yeah. So, and Legislator Peter had also brought up this. So the $5 million number there you see is a collective number not to exceed for the portion, which we don't anticipate will even come close to that, that the member counties will be responsible for. So OCFS, DCJS, and some other alphabet soup from New York State came in and went over the project at the facility. And basically checked boxes to determine, okay, this is justifiable as raise the age, therefore 100% reimbursable, and then this isn't. And that came out to 89-11. So 11% of the project the county will be responsible for, but keep in mind it's a consortium facility, so it's not the county, it's the 4 counties. So then you break that 11% down by the percentage of usage, and that number becomes very small. So that, say again? Yeah, I think it's around 4%. And it'll, I think it's gonna be calculated based on year of usage, so depending on how, that year goes, that's how it'll be calculated. So anyway, that's, the raise the age costs were calculated this way for all facilities across the state. There's only 6 such facilities across the state. So in terms of your question, what do I always say? Never a guarantee, but this one is pretty locked in, especially since we also have in writing from state DOB, this is what you're gonna get. I'd be lying if I didn't say we got on a call with them and say, hey, could we get maybe 95%? They didn't take too kindly to that, but they didn't lower our rate, so in all likelihood, I think we're in probably pretty good shape.
All right, are there any other questions? I don't even know if you can answer this. I have been out there several times. So each county has a specific number of beds or?
So, yes, each county of the member counties. So Albany, Schenectady, Rensselaer, Saratoga, they basically take historical usage and extrapolate it out. And that number has been pretty stable. It's fluctuated 1 or 2 here or there. Now, keep in mind, in order for the facility to, and this is not a problem, by the way, and it benefits us, to financially make sense, there needs to be usage. Before Raise the Age, utilization had dropped very, very low. But with Raise the Age, we've seen a spike. And of course, that's coincided with the inability for most folks to not be able to be hired, so then there's staffing issues as well. So what I'm saying is that now, not only do we have a large number of individuals from the 4 member counties, but we also are able to board individuals from surrounding counties that don't have their own facility. And there's no limitation on where they can come from. However, if you come from Suffolk County, which is a long way away, and the next day, Albany County, Saratoga County, Schenectady, Rensselaer, whoever needs a bed, you're gonna get bumped. Now, that individual may leave Albany County and go out to Onondaga, which has a facility, or Erie, which has a facility, right? Those are individual county facilities. But they can't stay here because of the reserve beds of the member counties.
Right. Okay, all right, thank you. Yes.
If there are no further questions, I make a motion.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter. I got a second from Mr. Bergdorf.
It's an emphatic second, it's a go Dasney.
I appreciate it, I expected nothing less.
Yes, thank you.
Wait a minute.
I was wondering if you're gonna wear
You
your
never
glasses.
stop working, you
Yeah,
just stop
we
getting
need to get him a
paid,
hat.
you know?
Yeah. You're up.
Wait a minute, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed, none. All right, thank you very much. So
You're
now.
Oh, they switched seats, that's cool.
Item 8 is,
I like that, it's nice.
Good
Wait, get us confused.
item 8 is authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 213 Mount Hope Drive in the city of Albany.
Madam Chair, as described, this is 213 Mount Hope Drive. This is the sole heir of the deceased former owner. We have the $41,500, which is the full amount of delinquent taxes owed in hand. Pretty vanilla transfer as far as we're concerned.
Madam Chair, if there are no questions, I'd like to make a motion.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter. I'm gonna have to give this one to Mr. Clay. He had his hand up. You get this to-
It's okay, it's okay if you wanna show favoritism. It's okay, do what you gotta do, I don't care.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Item 9 is authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 241 County Route 357 in the town of Rensselaerville.
So, Madam Chair, this one, as I said, the last one was pretty straightforward. This one's a little more nuanced. It's 241 County Route 357. We actually had originally authorized this to go to the land bank. They passed on it. Did we put it to auction?
No, we did not.
We did not
Because
do
it's
the
all
auction.
withdrawn.
We did not do the auction route because it is not withdrawn. But we were approached by, not an abutting owner, but somebody down the road who came in, provided an offer to us. We went, did an appraisal as per the disposition plan, and we got the full amount of the appraisal is the $50,000, which is what we have on hand for this conveyance.
And as you can see, there's quite a bit of debris on the property, so it avoids county costs in terms of a cleanup. And if there was anything that was
You don't know.
unidentified.
Here's your problem.
Just one question, Commissioner Riley and Mr. McLaughlin. Was there a plan put forward what the individual might want to use it for?
No, I believe actually it's redevelopment is residential.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, he wants to fix it up and live on it.
Yeah.
Great, no question, then I'd make a motion if there's no questions, Madam Chair.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter.
I think it was a tie that time. I think both our hands hit the middle of the table at the same time.
goes to Ms. Lakakis.
And the tie goes
I got the
to Mr.
pom-poms,
Katz.
come on.
I got a second from Mr. Katz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Thank you very much.
Motion to close, Madam Chair?
I got a motion to close.
Second.
I think we need a rule change. Seconding by acclamation.